Today we're going to look at the skills and knowledge you need before trying to fly any of the bush trips in Flight Simulator 2020. The game comes preloaded with 3 different bush trip activities that you can do. To get to them, all you got to do is you click on activities and then on bush trips. So the first question you're probably asking yourself is, which one should I start with? You can do them in any order, it doesn't really matter, but you should definitely familiarize yourself with the plane you're going to be flying before flying the first leg. Trying to navigate on top of flying an airplane you're unfamiliar with makes for a bit of a hectic experience as a newcomer, and you won't find it nearly as enjoyable. A few of the things you should be familiarizing yourself with are how the controls and the instruments work on the plane you're flying, the takeoff and landing configurations for normal takeoffs, for short field takeoffs, and for soft field takeoffs, and the normal cruise speed of the airplane. If you're unfamiliar with those terms or what you should be looking up, make sure to check out the other videos I've done related to those topics. I'll add links in the description below to them. So if you are going to be doing a familiarization flight with the airplane, what you can do is you can actually do it at the departure airport. So let's say I was going to be flying the Los Cerros to Cochrane adventure. I could come in here and I see that the identifier of the airport that I'm leaving from on that first leg is Z00T. So I can just go back to the world map, and here I can just type Z00T and it'll come right up there, and I can take off and do my familiarization flight at that departure airport. You can do it at any other airport, of course. I just like doing this because it gets you a little bit more prepared for the area you're going to be flying in. Okay, so once you've done your familiarization flight, let's head back into the activities and choose the flight we're going to be doing. You might also want to get out a piece of paper or a notebook to take down a few little notes that'll be useful for the flight. So there's a lot of information on this screen, but we only care about a few things. So the from and to destination that is shown here is for the entire bush trip, not for the leg you're going to be flying. So you don't really need to worry about that too much. On the right here, you've got a list of all the legs of that trip to get to Cochrane, which is the final destination. As you can see, I've already flown a few of the legs on this trip. So for each leg, you have a little bit of information here. It tells you the distance in nautical miles that you're going to travel, the estimated time en route, which is how long it thinks it'll take you to actually fly the leg, and the status of if you've flown it or not. Just below, when you click on a leg, you can see the airport you're going to be departing from and the arrival airport. On top of that, you also see the wind direction here. So what I actually like to do is to go look up this airport first in free flight so I can figure out what the altitude and the runway headings are so that I can figure out which runway I'm going to target for my landing on arrival. And again, to do that, you just go back into free flight, you just type in the name of the airport because we don't have the identifier, and it should come right up. The pictures that are indicated here actually show you every single airport you're going to be landing at throughout the trip. The first picture represents the actual departure airport that we're at, which is Los Cerros. The next picture shows you the arrival airport for that first leg. The third picture shows you the arrival airport for the third leg, and so on and so forth, all the way to Cochrane. I like to take a mental picture of what the airport looks like, so that as I'm flying, it makes it a little bit easier to find, and it gives me an idea of what to expect. On the left here, you just have some overall information about the entire trip and a couple extra details like the total distance you're traveling, the total time, and this is hours here, so that's 7 hours and 7 minutes is the estimated duration. So with all that information jotted down, you're ready to head into the cockpit. So once you're actually in the cockpit, there's a few things to do before you get ready for takeoff. First thing I like to do is actually just move these off to the right hand side. I won't really need the VFR map because I have the GPS up here. So the first thing I like to actually do before heading for takeoff is to review all the different points of interest we're going to be flying. This gives me a good idea of what to expect as I'm flying it and allows me to focus a little bit more on flying the plane and a little less about reading a giant blob of text. The navlog gives you all the information you need to fly from point A to point B. Obviously in this plane I've got a GPS, in the Savage Cub you don't, but it is still possible to get from point A to point B without relying on the GPS at all. The navlog shows you each waypoint that you have to fly and which heading to fly to get to it. So on departure, I am going to be heading towards Isla Redonda, and to do that I need to fly a heading of 235 for a distance of around 6 nautical miles, and that should take me about 3 minutes and 8 seconds. You can estimate the time it's going to take you to get there by using the stopwatch here. So once I'm airborne, I'll actually start the stopwatch and it'll start running like that. And then I can have an idea at around 3 minutes just by looking at the VFR map that's in the GPS or the pop-up window, have an idea where I'm at relative to what was indicated in the point of interest information here. I don't need the stopwatch now, so I'll just stop that and reset it. Like I mentioned, the X-Cub and the Cessna 172 come equipped with a GPS. On top of that, it comes preloaded with the entire flight plan. To make things a little bit more challenging, you can actually delete the flight plan so that you have to do old-fashioned navigation to get from point A to point B. So in this plane, it's not super obvious how to delete the flight plan. So I'll just focus on the GPS. Now, the flight plan is actually loaded with every single waypoint and point of interest that you're going to fly through for the entirety of the trip. You can see it right here, and you can see it's loaded up. In the GPS in the X-Cub, I haven't quite figured out how to delete the flight plan itself, so what I actually do is I set another destination which is going to override this flight plan, and then I can just clear the destination. So I'll show you how to do that now. So I'll just say nearest, and we don't really care. Direct to, and activate. So now if I go to the flight plan, I only have the one destination here, so then I can click here, remove waypoint, there we go. And now the flight plan has been completely cleared. In the G1000, in the Cessna 172, the procedure is actually slightly different because it's a different GPS than the one in the X-Cub. On the G1000, it's actually a lot easier to just delete the flight plan. I think you go into menu, you click the flight plan, and then there's a button to select the right option to delete the flight plan, from what I remember. So even though the flight plan has been cleared, obviously you can still use the VFR map that's here if you want to just have an idea of where you're at. But if you don't want that either, all you have to do is click on this button right here, and that'll actually just show you the attitude indicator. You'll also notice that there's a lot fewer options in the menu at the top of the screen than usual. Most notably, there's no air traffic control for these flights. So when your arrival airport is in sight, you can choose to land any way you see fit. Some legs are set up for a straight-in approach to landing, and other ones you'll actually have to fly a full traffic pattern to come in and land, depending on the wind direction. So with all that said, you should be ready to taxi for takeoff and start your first leg of the adventure. Please let me know in the comments if you've got any questions with regards to the bush trip activities. Otherwise, I'll see you again next time.